NKC Art.
All right, we're going to be making our aquariums today. We're going to start them today and finish them up next week. We're going to be making an aquarium that has a one-point perspective that looks like you're walking down the hallway, and it's one of those aquariums where you can kind of see the fish swim over the top of you. And all of this is like glass. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to get your ruler out and a pencil. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a big X across the paper from one corner all the way down to the other, and then we're going to do the same thing over here. Now, if you have a ruler like mine, it may not reach the other side all the way. So what I do with that is I try to line it up the best I can. So I make sure I have the corner up here touching my ruler. And then I try to like move it around and angle it to where it's probably going to go to like about the edge of my paper down here. And what I do is I just start drawing my line and I stop at the end of my ruler. And then all I do is move the ruler down and I line it back up with my pencil mark and I finish up my line. And I actually happen to get it pretty good. Sometimes I'm a little bit off, but that one I was pretty good on. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. So I'm going to line it up right here in the corner and kind of try to angle it to be about where that corner is going to meet the best I can. So if I follow my finger down this way, it'll probably go to the edge of my paper. So I'm going to start drawing my line. And then I'm going to move my ruler down and finish up my line to the very edge. So when you're done, your paper should look like this, with one giant X right in the middle. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to draw some lines. The lines aren't going to go all the way from the top of the paper to the bottom of the paper. They're just going to go from the top of the diagonal line we drew to the bottom of this diagonal line. And this is going to be like where the windows are seamed together on the side. On my first one, I come over a little bit. I don't want to go too far. Probably around right here will be good. And I'm just going to take my pencil and draw from the top line to the bottom line and stop. So when you're done, your line should look a lot like this. We're going to end up drawing two more lines, so one here and then one this way, just depending on how close you put them together. You may need more than 3 lines, but I want to stick to try doing about 3 lines. So I'm going to move over about halfway, and I'm going to line my rule up the straightest I can, and then draw from the top line to the bottom line again. And then my last one is going to just leave a little tiny bit of space here because it's starting to get closer together as you're looking down the hallway and it's getting further from you. So you're going to take your ruler and you have like a little triangle right here. You're just going to put your line right down there from the top to the bottom. So it should look a lot like mine when you're finished. We're going to do the same thing to this side. It's hard to get these lines exactly in the same spot where you have them on this left side right here. So what I do is I take my ruler, and I'm not going to draw this line. I'm just going to use my ruler to line up where I want my other line to start. So if I put the end of my ruler on my first line here, because I want to figure out where to put this first line on this side. So if I touch the ruler right there, and I try to make it as straight as I can by looking at the bottom, I'm kind of angling my ruler. My line is going to start right about here. So I'm going to put like a little circle there to remind myself where to start my line. I'm going to move my ruler up to my next line, line it up with this middle line again where the ruler's touching it, and then try to straighten up my ruler across. I kind of look at the bottom and see if it looks straight or not. And I'm going to put one more little dot right there on the line where the ruler meets the line, because that's where mine's going to start. I'm going to do the same thing with the last line. So I'm going to make my ruler touch the corner down here where the lines meet. Try to line it up as straight as I can. And then wherever the line meets the ruler is where my dot's gonna go, because that's where my 3 lines are going to start. Once you know where your 3 lines are going to start, you can go ahead and start making your vertical lines on this side, from the top diagonal line to the bottom one. So to do that, I line it up with my dot, and so I've got my side of my ruler touching my dot, and I want to angle it till it's about as straight as it can be. And I'm going to go from the top line down to the bottom line where my dot was. And it's about the same location as the line across from it. I'm going to do the same thing with the middle line. I'm going to start at the dot, line it up the best I can straight, and then I'm going to take my pencil and draw from the diagonal line at the top to the bottom, and then do the same thing on your last line. So now it looks like they're about even when you're going down the hallway. If you do more than 3 lines, it starts getting a little bit messy. That's why I try to stick with 3 lines the best I can. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to connect the 2 lines that are on the same plane right across from each other. We're going to connect them with a little arch on the top. So I start with the furthest lines, the ones in the middle, and I just kind of start at the end and make a curve like an arch that goes from one side to the other. I'm going to do the same thing from the middle line over to the middle line and just arch it. If your lines are further up, you may go off the paper with this arch. I was able to fit mine on there, but some of you may have it to where it's going off the paper and completing on the other side. Just like these last 2 lines that I'm going to do. I'm not going to be able to fit my whole arch on the top. So I'm going to start my arch over here, and I'm going to finish my arch on this side. So it's just kind of like a little rounded line up to the top of your paper. Next, we're going to work on the floor. We're going to make some horizontal lines that go down the floor. They start out bigger, and the lines get closer together as you go further back, making it look like they're getting smaller as you get further away. So you're going to take your ruler, and we're going to go from this diagonal line to this diagonal line. And what you're going to do is you're going to line up your ruler wherever you think is best. I kind of do it about ruler size, so my ruler fits on the page. And I'm going to draw my line from this diagonal line all the way across to this diagonal line right there. I'm going to do the same thing, so I'm going to move it a little bit further back. Again, about ruler's length, or ruler's width, I meant, and draw another line. Now, as I go back further, I want my lines to get narrower. So instead of doing a whole ruler's length or width right here from this line to that line, I'm going to make it a little bit smaller and draw my line across. The same thing with the next line, even smaller, like a narrower line that goes across until you get to the back. So it's kind of thicker in the front and it gets narrower as you go down the whole way. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a line that meets from this vanishing point, the middle, and comes out to make our checkered floor. To be able to do that, take your ruler and you're going to line up the edge with your ruler to touch that middle dot. And when you do that, you can kind of angle your ruler around this way to move it. But you want to keep it, try to keep it stuck on that one point. So I'm going to keep it right there where it's touching the middle, and I'm going to kind of angle about what I think might be a square. And I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to draw my line. Then all I'm going to do is I'm going to keep it, the ruler touching that middle point, and I'm just going to kind of pivot my ruler around, make it about the same length or width as the last square I did, and draw another straight line down. I just noticed I wasn't going to the end of the paper. You need to go to the end of the paper. isn't paying attention. So it looks like this. Then you're going to end up doing the same thing. Make your ruler touch that center dot. Angle it to be about as wide as you were making the other squares. And you're going to draw your line that goes down. And I think I have room for one more line coming out from my center. It just depends on how thick you made them. It's a little bit off on the sizes, but I got as close as I could. Just do the best you can. Once you've drawn this part in pencil, what you're going to do is you're going to get a Sharpie and trace those lines. After you trace the lines with a Sharpie, what you're going to do is you're going to make some sea creatures in the back. Now, I wouldn't draw them with Sharpie. I would draw them with pencil in case you make a mistake. So I would use pencil, and we don't have to Sharpie these animals afterwards. We're just going to pencil them in. I've given you a sheet of paper also in class that shows you a bunch of different sea animals and different plants and coral that you can put in there. You don't have to use these. If you're like me, you want something to look at to be able to draw it. So that's why I gave you some of these. But kind of just do your own aquarium in here and make the sea creatures that you would like in yours. So this is what I ended up with mine, some jellyfish, turtle, and some fish on the side, some rocks, and some plants inside of there. You can start working on your sea animals today. If you don't finish, we can do them next week. And next week, we're going to end up coloring our pictures. When you're done, don't forget to take a picture and submit it to Canvas once we get it all finished.